I have a recipe card in my grandmother's hand, and I am going to read you the whole thing. Butter the size of an egg, sweet milk, flour to make a stiff dough, bake till done. That is the entire card, front and back, and no dish name anywhere on it. 51 years I have had it, and I still do not know what it made. Hold that, because it explains something. Go and read the comments under any video like this one, and you will find the same 3 sentences over and over. I wish I had my mother's recipe. Will somebody please send me this one? My grandmother made that, and it went with her. Those people did not forget. They were never given the thing in the first place. These were never written down properly. What got written was a note to jog the memory of a woman who already had it all in her hands, and that is no use to a stranger 50 years on. The knowledge lived in a pair of hands and moved by standing next to somebody, which is a fragile way to move anything. My name is Ruth Mae Callahan. I am 74, and I learned these the only way they were taught, by being in the room. 30 of them, in a deliberate order. First the ones rescued by accident because a company printed them and made them impossible to lose. Then the ones that survived in church cookbooks. Last, the one that cannot be written down at all. Every one is written out properly in the collection linked below. Number 30, 7-Up pound cake. A soda company put it in an advertisement, and that is the only reason you can still find it. A cup of the soda goes where the milk would, carrying a faint lemon and doing part of the lifting, which is why there is no baking powder in it. A tube pan, an hour and a half of low steady heat, under $1.50 in 1965, 13 now. Number 29, Texas sheet cake. Butter and cocoa boiled with water and poured straight into the dry, which is the whole trick. Thin sheet, 20 minutes, middle only just set. Then hot icing onto hot cake so it soaks into the cracks instead of sitting on top, which is why it is still moist on Thursday. One pan fed 30. Under $3 then, 16 now. Number 28, strawberry pretzel salad. Pretzels crushed rough into butter, pressed and baked 10 minutes. Cream cheese with whipped topping over it, and that layer is a seal rather than decoration. It keeps the pretzels crisp. Then strawberry gelatine cooled to room temperature before it goes on. Warm, and it melts the cream cheese. Cold, and it will not spread. That window is the only hard thing in it, and no card mentions it. Number 27, peach cobbler, the backwards kind. Butter melted hot in the pan, thin batter poured into it and left alone, peaches spooned over and left alone. The batter climbs up through the fruit in the oven, so the cake ends up under and over the peaches at once. I have seen this on a card with the words, "Do not stir," written 3 separate times in the margin. Number 26, chocolate lush, ground pecans and flour and butter, pressed and baked, cream cheese and whipped topping over the cooled crust. Then chocolate pudding cooked on the stove rather than shaken up cold, a shade thicker so it holds a clean line. Overnight no less. Under $3 then, 16 now. The church women who cooked the pudding properly were the reason it was worth eating. Number 25, chocolate coconut torte. Same family, one instruction people ignore. The chocolate layer has to be cold and firm before the coconut goes on. Set it on warm and the coconut sinks through and you get a brown muddle instead of 4 stripes. 2 hours of waiting in the middle of the recipe, untouched. Under $3 then, 14 now. Number 24, hummingbird cake. Mashed banana and crushed pineapple with oil instead of butter, which is why it stays damp for days. Pecans and coconut folded in at the end, 3 layers, cream cheese frosting, better on the second day. About $3 in 1973, 20 now, and the pecans are most of that. Number 23, carrot cake, grated carrot by the cupful, Pineapple drained with its juice kept back, because that juice goes in the frosting later, and that is the part everybody leaves out. It is what makes it taste like the old one rather than the bakery one. Under $2 then, 18 now. All 8 are findable this afternoon, and it has nothing to do with how good they are. Everyone was printed by somebody with a commercial reason to print it. Being useful to a business is how a recipe becomes immortal. Now the ones that had no such luck. Number 22, buttermilk pie. Eggs beaten with sugar until pale, melted butter cooled so it does not cook them. Buttermilk, vanilla, a spoon of flour. Low and slow near an hour until the top cracks under a fork and the middle stays loose. It went for a duller reason than convenience. Buttermilk stopped living in the refrigerator, and milk with vinegar in it is not the same. Number 21, sugar cream pie. Indiana, and born out of having nothing. No fruit on the trees, no eggs from the hens. Dessert still expected. Cream sugar, a spoon of flour, vanilla, cold butter in the shell first, nutmeg over. 6 things. My grandfather said they never felt poor while one was cooling on the sill, and I have thought about that most of my life. Number 20, choufle pie. Pennsylvania, and eaten at breakfast, which surprises people. Molasses in boiling water, soda stirred in, and it foams up alarmingly, and you wait for it to settle before the egg, or you scramble it. The crumbs go in 3 portions, not 2, alternating with the molasses. It cools into 3 textures in 1 slice. Under 50 cents then, 6 now. Number 19, blackberry jam cake. If you have only just arrived, I am Ruth Mae Callahan, a mountain recipe, and it exists because there was jam in the cellar and little else in February. A cup of jam beaten into spice batter, seeds and all, doing the fruit and the sweetness and most of the moisture at once. Caramel icing over it warm. It kept, which was the point. Number 18, spiced apple cake. Apples chopped small, not grated. Batter so thick you push it into the corners with a spoon. Cream cheese frosting spread on, while the cake is warm so it goes into the surface instead of sitting on it. The apples are why it stays wet for days. Under $1 then, 10 now. Number 17, banana brownies. Made whenever the bananas had gone too far to eat plainly. Cocoa worked into hot melted butter until glossy, and that order is what makes the chocolate taste deeper. 2 bananas mashed nearly to liquid, properly black spotted, or there is no point. Nobody who ate them ever identified the banana. They only said these are better than ordinary ones. Now stop, because I want you to do something. Go and find the card. Most of you have one, in a tin or a shoebox, or folded inside a cookbook that belonged to somebody who has died. I will bet you there is a line on it that means nothing to a stranger. A moderate oven, butter the size of a walnut, a teacup of sugar, and whose teacup? Baked till it looks right. She was not being careless or secretive. She simply did not think of it as information, because her hands knew the answer. Put that line in the comments, word for word, and whose hand it is in. And the same dishes written out so you can follow them on a Tuesday evening are in the collection below. Number 16, zucchini cupcakes. And yes, really, grated fine with the skin left on. The water in the squash comes out slowly in the heat, which is why they are still soft on day 3. Caramel frosting made in a pan, never out of a jar. Spread warm so it sets to a gloss. Nobody ever tasted the vegetable. Under $1 then, 10 now. Number 15, oatmeal coconut cookies. Old-fashioned rolled oats, not the quick ones. Vanilla and a little almond, which is doing more work than you would think. Out while the centers still look wet, because they finish on the hot sheet. They lived in a butter cookie tin lined with waxed paper and kept a week if left alone, which they were not. Number 14, Soft buttermilk sugar cookies. Butter creamed with sugar a full 5 minutes, and by hand that is real work. When the buttermilk goes in, it looks curdled and broken, and that is correct, so do not add flour to fix it. Cut or pressed straight down without a twist, because twisting seals the edge, and they will not rise. These came out for birthdays, for funerals, and on ordinary Tuesdays when somebody needed looking after. Number 13, frosted spice cookies. Butter and both sugars, then egg and dark molasses, which turns the bowl deep brown and smells like December, whatever the calendar says. Balls turned in granulated sugar before they go on the sheet, and frosting on while they are still warm so it runs into the cracks. What stayed with me was the jar on her counter, never empty. If it got low, she made more that day. Nothing from here down was ever printed by anybody with a reason to print it. Notice how the instructions get stranger as we go, because we are moving away from recipes and towards things a person has to be shown. Number 12, peanut butter banana icebox pie. Southern summer, and no woman was lighting an oven in August in a house with no way of cooling itself. That was never a preference. It was the reason the dessert exists. Wafer crust, cream cheese beaten smooth with peanut butter, folded through whipped cream, or you lose the air. On the card I learned it from somebody had written, "Keep this away from Harold," under a note about nuts. Number 11, Martha Washington candy. Condensed milk, warmed gently with butter, powdered sugar worked in until your arm complains, coconut and pecans folded through once it has gone too stiff to stir easily. That is the only guidance you get about when to stop, and it is enough if somebody has shown you once. Every grandchild took a turn stirring, and she did not need the help. That was the lesson being handed over while there was somebody to hand it. Number 10, pinwheel mince. Cream cheese and butter beaten with powdered sugar to the stiffness of frosting. Peppermint in carefully because you can ruin the batch in one go. Divided, half white and half colored, each rolled to a matching rectangle, laid together and rolled into a tight log. Sliced thin, every round shows a spiral. Pink for a shower, green at Christmas. Number 9, star cookies. Butter, sugar, then vanilla and almond both, and the almond is not optional. That one bottle is the difference between these and every other sugar cookie in the country. In that house, the cutter was a star, and only a star, and every grandchild knew better than to suggest otherwise. That rule never made it onto a card, and it was the most important part. Number 8, cottage pudding, a confusing name for something with no pudding in it. A plain butter cake, served hot in a bowl, with sweet sauce poured over until it is swimming. It has to be close and sturdy, because a light one collapses the moment the sauce hits it. That is why it tastes dull on its own. It was never meant to be eaten on its own. Number 7, apple dumplings in puff pastry, called angel pillows by the woman who taught me. Whole apples cored, the hollow packed with brown sugar and cold butter, pastry drawn up and pinched shut. What separates a good one from a soggy one is this: the syrup goes around the dumplings and never over them. The tops must stay dry to puff. Pour it over and you will not know why it failed. Number 6, pfeffernüsse. Anise generously, because that is the whole identity of the cookie, and ground white pepper to keep the sweetness from going flat. Now the instruction no card carries. They come out hard as gravel, and they are supposed to. Into a tin with a slice of apple, lid shut, left a fortnight. Fresh from the oven, they are a failure. 2 weeks later, they are right. Number 5, honey lime almond cookies. Honey with the zest of 2 limes, which sounds wrong together and is not. The almond flour has to be nearly powder, or the cookie eats gritty, and gritty is the only way this one fails. They traveled without breaking, and kept over a week, which is why they got posted to people a long way off. That was their job. Number 4, peanut butter cookies, the old ones. I put these here for one detail. The woman who owned this recipe wrote it down exactly once in her life, in 1942, for a daughter who was marrying and leaving. That was the only copy she ever made. Press flat with a fork twice, across and then down. One copy, written once, because somebody was leaving home and might not be able to ask. Number 3, Southern Pound Cake. A pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of eggs, a pound of flour. Everybody could recite that, and it did not make their cake taste like hers. 2 things were missing: a capful of almond extract she never mentioned, and 10 full minutes of creaming before 1 egg goes near the bowl. Nearly everybody stops at 4 because it looks finished at 4. Neither of those is a measurement. Number 2, vinegar pie. February, no lemons within 200 miles. A pie expected anyway. Cider vinegar is the whole thing. Too much and you have made salad dressing. Too little and it is flat. The right amount and it tastes so like lemon that people will argue with you about it. Her card had 1 word in the corner in pencil. Good, underlined 3 times. Number 1, divinity. I saved this because it proves the thing better than any story about a card. Egg whites to stiff peaks. Sugar and corn syrup boiled to the hard ball stage, a temperature you can measure. That syrup poured into the beating whites in a thin, steady thread. Then you beat and keep beating, and wait for the moment it stops shining and holds a peak. Every measurement in that is knowable. You can buy a thermometer, you can time the beating, and you will still fail because divinity will not set on a humid day. It stays tacky and weeping on the paper overnight, and then you throw it out. That is not your technique, and it is not the recipe. It is the weather, and there is not 1 card in this country with the weather written on it. My Aunt Verna made divinity perhaps 4 times a year, and she did not decide by the calendar. She went to the kitchen window first and stood and looked out, and if the answer was no, she made something else and said nothing about why. Nobody wrote that down. Why would you write down looking out of a window? So, my grandmother's card, butter the size of an egg, bake till done. I have made it as a sugar cookie, as a jam cake, as a shortcake, and as a drop biscuit. More than 40 times across 51 years, and not one came out the way I remember it tasting. I used to take that as a failure of mine. Not any longer. That card was never a recipe. It was a note to a woman who already knew, and she has been gone since 1975. The instructions were her, which is why I write everything out in full now, including the parts that feel too obvious to bother with. The window, the 10 minutes, the fortnight in the tin. Obvious is the first thing to go, and somebody down the line will be holding my handwriting and wondering what I meant. So tell me her name. The woman whose cooking you are still thinking about, and the one dish that was hers, and if you know it, what her kitchen smelled like the day she made it. I read them and I keep the good ones, and I have started writing some down properly, which is the only kind of saving there is. And if you want to be here while I work through the ones we did not reach today, subscribe. My name is Ruth Mae Callahan. I am not going anywhere, and there is always something in the tin.